All right, scrimmage was yesterday, and again, Florida State didn't practice anybody. Like, just didn't. Okay, and so I've asked about this. I actually got a call, or I got a text after the scrimmage, and I said, "Hey, can we chat about the scrimmage with somebody that was there?" And they said the exact quote: "Scrimmage was boring. I'll call you later." And I was like, "What do you mean scrimmage? Like, we've been waiting all week. We had the scrimmage last week. Nobody played in it. Really like notes and updates from this week." And he was like, "Dude, I'm busy. I'm doing some other stuff at Florida State right now. I'll call you later." It wasn't that big of a deal. And I was like, all right, so whatever. So he calls me later. We actually chatted like 10 p.m. last night. I was telling you guys last week about that Lake County Seminole event, which I went to last night. It was a ton of fun. So shout out to those good folks in Lake and Sumter counties. But yeah, I mean, just big picture with the scrimmage, just some high level standouts. I mean, DJ played fairly well, but only like a drive or two, wasn't in a ton. Some guys that really did stand out. Conrad Hussey was a name that I heard a ton. I would not be surprised at all, and we kind of were hearing some different things back in spring that maybe somebody else might start at safety, but I think there's a really good chance that Conrad Hussey and Ashlyn Barker start and not start, sorry. I don't know if Barker will start, but I think Hussey and Shaheem Brown are your starters, and then I really like where they're at with having Barker back there as well as kind of like your third guy. And then, I know there's questions around the Devontae Brown take. I think you bring a guy with a lot of experience who, if he's your third or fourth best safety, you feel pretty good about that. And you're not necessarily like freaking out about depth. You remember last year when we went into the season, our big concern, we didn't know what to be concerned about because we knew I think we all thought like we're going 11-1 or 12-0. And so our big concern was safety depth. That was the big thing last year, Richie, was like safety depth. Yeah. Like, what are we going to do back there? How are we going to, and then we like had to like pause like a week before the season. We were like, hey, our biggest concern is that like, if we have to go 3 or 4 deep at one position, then we're in a lot of trouble. And so anyway, I feel really good about the secondary in totality. I think Florida State has the best secondary in the conference. I certainly think they have the best secondary in the state. That's, not even a question. And I feel really good about that back end. Hearing really good things about the linebackers too. Like, I'm trying to have bated breath there, but I think Riley continues to impress. I think what you've got in Lundy. He's been a bit banged up, but coming back, I expect him to be fine by the time you get to Georgia Tech. I feel really good about the linebacker position, and not going to sit here and tell you that I think it's going to be a strength of the team. I'm not going to tell you that I don't think that there's a drop off. In some regards from last year, right? But I don't think it's a monumental drop-off. I think they'll be really good. Defensive line, not a lot of the starters were out there, not a lot played at all. Very limited reps. I did hear really, really good things from Byron Turner. Oh, I want to back up to secondary in a minute, but I heard really, really good things about Byron Turner. And I know that's a name that people have been asking about and really wanting to here progress and here come along. And, I think we feel really good about the starting 4 defensive line. And then we're kind of like, well, where are we going after that? What's that look like after that? And Turner coming in, giving you some really good quality off the edge. When Jones or Pat Payton are out is going to be really big. I think Sione Lolohea plays a good amount. I don't think that's, a question. But just having more depth options there on defensive line is a big deal because we talked about it. We've talked about how much Florida State has rotated. We've talked about how they like to keep that D-line fresh, and you saw what them doing that last year, brought about with getting to the end of the year and having guys really fresh for Florida and Louisville. The defensive line essentially went out and won you those games. And so I think that if you can rely on a guy like Byron Turner, on a guy like Lolohea, you'll be in a really good spot. And then my guy Drew is going to kill me for this, but I'll say it anyway. I've heard really good things about Kevin Noles, and I know that's a name that's been up and down, and people thought that might even be a transfer candidate at some point. I think he is going to do a pretty good job in nickel packages, whether that's backing up Earl Little, which I think that's a pretty solidified starting spot, or coming into the dime and giving you an extra option there. Again, you're looking at a situation where he's probably like your third, fourth, fifth best corner, but a position you need depth, especially when you want to go really DB heavy. Florida State runs a lot of 5 DBs at all times, and so when you want to bring that extra guy on, or you want to go to 6 because of whatever package you think the offense might throw out there. I've heard that Kevin Knowles had a pretty good scrimmage and has had a pretty good fall and kind of shown out. So defensively, really, really encouraged. Richie, game is less than 2 weeks away, and people, Georgia Tech has a good offense, this, that, and the other. That's kind of the scuttlebutt that's going around. Oh, we need to watch out. And, again, I know you're replacing Verse and Green and Dent and other guys, Bethune and Deloach and Jarian Jones, Braden Fisk. I don't want to leave anybody out, Fabo, but the way that this defense held LSU down back-to-back years, and the way that Fuller has really progressed and made this a really, really good defense. Like, you just think about throughout the whole year, like where were the bad defensive performances that we had? Like the Duke game, you give up a pick six. The Virginia Tech game, they scored 17, but one of those was a kick return. The Boston College game where they scored 29. One of those, they got a field goal off of a turnover in our territory, and so they did. That's 3 points that I don't really put on the defense, and they got a scoop and score touchdown as well. Did we really give up like 19 against Boston College? Yeah, maybe not the best, but this defense was really elite last year, and I think they're going to be really good again. So, Richie, I just said a whole bunch, but before I go to the offense, I'll toss it to you for a sec. Get right back to the video, but first, let me give a little bit of love to my friends over at Got Spears. John does a phenomenal job, and the season is upon us. If you're going up for a game this year, make sure that you get your spears from Got Spears and give him about a 2 weeks heads up, and he will bring your spear down to the game. You don't have to get it shipped. You don't have to pay extra. You can use code TAKE50 right now through the month of August to get $50 off several items, spears, gator heads, rush shipping, whatever you need. He will get you taken care of. GotSpears.com. Appreciate them for their support of FSU and our channel.
Yeah, I think to your point, TJ, the biggest thing is that, who did not play or who played very limited reps in the scrimmage. That tells me that Adam Fuller is confident in what he has. He doesn't need to see anything else. He knows what he's got, and he's ready to go. And to your point, I think Cam Riley has been the biggest pleasant surprise of camp for me so far, because I was worried. You really like Lundy. Like you said, he's been banged up a little bit, but he should be good to go. But I think the fact that now you have, I think, a solidified number 2 linebacker who I think he will be starting aside DJ Lundy come Ireland, that's a big deal. And the secondary, like you said, I'm not worried about the secondary at all. There is depth upon depth upon depth. And, hearing Byron Turner having a good scrimmage, that's great to hear. Because like we've talked about in previous shows recently, Florida State's front four, you could stack them up against anybody in the country. They're not the best, but you could make an argument for top 5 easily. I think you really could. So I just think, this scrimmage, it was, to your point, you said the source you had said it was boring. Well, I think that's a good thing, because if you have all your key players going out and playing in the final scrimmage of the season, battling for jobs this late, that's an issue in my opinion. So the fact that they already know what they have, I think that's a great sign, and I'm really excited about that. I do think this defense will be top 10 in the country and a chance to be top 5.
Yeah, I think you've just got so many options. I mean, I know he frustrated fans last year just from being young and having to be relied on in certain spots and rotating, and people watch the Orange Bowl, this, that, and the other. But people are excited about Omar Graham. People are excited about Justin Cryer. People are excited about, I think Sean Murphy's going to give you a little bit. I think he's been more up and down. But if you can really be solidified with Lundy and Riley, and then whatever you get from Omar Graham, whatever you get from Sean Murphy, whatever you get from
watch out for Blake Nicholson now.
Yeah, whatever you can get from those guys, you're in a really good spot, and you're upping you're up in the floor of that room a little bit, right? The ceiling may not be as high as it was last year, but I think the floor has raised in that room. And so, offensively, just very quickly, I think that we've all seen the highlight of
Cam Davis,
Cam running people over. He's the nicest kid. Like, I don't know if you've ever, like, he is like the most polite, like nice, like, just Southern Georgia kid, like he is, but he is so mean on the field. Like, I don't even think like Dalvin was really that mean. I think Dalvin was just like, he could get through some guys, but Dalvin was just more like, I'm good. Like, I'm South Florida. Like, I'm good. Like, he was quiet, but he was, but I don't think Dalvin ran mean. I don't think, I think like James Wilder was more funny to me, but like he was mean. I feel like he ran angry, and I think I get that from a lot of guys don't necessarily run mean. Greg Jones, I think, ran mean. Obviously, you remember the big hits that he had, taking people's heads off. But, Cam Davis just feels like a mean person when he's running. So, super, like the nicest kid might be the nicest kid on the team outside of the field. But, just like, I'm going to run violent, and that's what he does. So, the highlight of that was great. Sam Singleton's a name that everybody brings up, so I'm certainly not breaking anything by telling you that he's had good days and stuff. But man, when we talk about that running back room being like 5 deep, it truly is. And somebody asked me last night at the Seminole event who the impact freshman I thought would be, and I said Cam Davis just because I think running back's the position that translates. I don't know how many other true freshmen are going to get in and make a big difference. I could see Elijah Moore, later on in the year, LeWayne McCoy, maybe stepping up at wide receiver. But even then, I don't know if we're really going to feature, those guys a ton when we get late. But yeah, I think Cam Davis is one that could. Sam Singleton, again, a name that continues to be brought up, continues to run extremely hard and do the right things. And then just quickly, offensive line continuing to improve, certainly better yesterday. Than maybe Scrimmage one, especially on the way they started. Cleaner Scrimmage. And the name that was brought up to me the most offensively was Jalen Lucas. In fact, I'm not going to say, I'm sorry to do this to you guys, but I don't want it to get clipped and people to be in my mentions. But there's a name that Jalen Lucas was compared to. I'll maybe put that in the Discord or something. But there's a name that Jalen Lucas was compared to. And it was ridiculous. And when I heard it, I was like, no way. And they're like, no, he's not that good, but like he's like that for us. So just absolute Swiss Army knife. Nobody can catch him. He's incredibly fast. I'd love to see him race Norvell one day at the end of practice. I don't think Norvell would Norvell would take the challenge up, but
I don't need Norvell pulling a hamstring.
Yeah, he would know how that was going to go, when that one started. But there's all the questions about wide receiver, and maybe this is a good transition, but there's all the questions about wide receiver and what that's going to look like. And I think if you can get Benson and you can get, Jalen Lucas and Ja'Kai Douglas, and then, there's been a lot of Jaylen Brown talk. I don't know if he's going to get enough targets to really be wide receiver 2 this year, like has been kind of theorized, but we'll see. If you can get them to be really solid, then I think anything that Kentron or Williamson or, Hakeem or others add is a plus. And then, your young guys like Moore and stuff, once you get kind of into the season and you're playing the Clemsons and Notre Dames and Miamis, then I think you can kind of rely, bring some of those other guys. But if you can get Morlock, who has been really good, Morlock has had a great fall from what I've been told. Like, I think they really like where he's at. He's kind of your big bodied guy. You've got some smaller wide receivers. I know that you're not going to have just the safety valve of Johnny and Johnny and Keon to just throw up to every single time. But I think that, maybe the concerns around wide receiver are still present, but maybe a little bit exaggerated. I think that things are coming along there. And certainly, if you get what you're expecting out of that room, then, you'll be in good shape because I think they're going to run the ball extremely well. So offensively, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but if not, we'll move on. But I'll let you kind of wrap about that a little bit.
Yeah, and we're going to do some, grades here in a little bit, but, I do think DJ is settled in well. I do have concerns about the weapons that he has to throw to, but I love this offensive line. I think it'll be probably our best offensive line since maybe our 2013 national title team. And I love the backfield. I'm a big fan of DJ. I think Luke or Brock behind him, they have some work to do, just to say the least. Their potential is through the roof, but they're not quite ready yet, in my opinion. But overall, I really do like this offense, and I'm excited to see this team take the field in less than 20 days.
Dude, less than 20. We're 2 weeks away. We're 13 days away, man.
13, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's coming fast. So,